All right, everybody. We are here at Summer Game Fest with Enhance to talk about Lumines Arise. It's been a while.
It's been a minute, yes. It's been a minute since we've had a Lumines title. Yeah, 20 plus years since the original PSP. Lumines Remastered came out in 2018, so we re-released it. But yeah, it's been cool having a mix of people here. Some of which are like, oh, Lumines, I love that game, the puzzle game. I remember it never left my PSP. And some people are like, yeah, I'm sorry, I've never played a Lumines. And it's like, no. That's great. A lot of people haven't played Lumines. That's a long time ago that PSP game came out. So yeah, we get both types.
I guess start off with like describing like what the kind of like basic concept of Lumines is, and you know how you play it, and then kind of like what got you guys on this journey.
So we had the experience with Tetris Effect, which we're super proud of, super happy with. Had a great reaction. To not sound too pretentious, but like take people on like an emotional journey with Tetris, and a lot of it through music and synesthesia, and we felt like it proved out a lot of what we try to do at Enhance. It was great. And my boss and the head of Enhance, Mizuguchi-san, had a puzzle series from before that tried to do something similar with music that was Lumines, and so we were kind of itching and thinking about for a long time. Had it kind of in the back of our heads. It actually really influenced Tetris Effect, which now I think is being influenced now I think Lumines Arise is being influenced by Tetris Effect, so it's kind of paying it forward in each case. But I'll let Ishihara-san talk to this.
そうですね。始めたきっかけですよね。
So just to add a few things to what Mark just said, I think it's like, yes, there's a lot of learnings from Tetris Effect, but it's sort of the sensibilities that we didn't even know that we could sort of like put together and pull off in Tetris Effect. And so it was sort of a natural conversation topic, like, oh, what would Luminous look like if we were able to sort of apply some of the things that we were able to achieve and make happen in Luminous? So it wasn't sort of it was a very natural progression and a natural shift to start talking about bringing back Luminous.
I haven't got to dig into it yet, but you did confirm that there is kind of a similar journey mode, and so kind of talk about like sort of what goes into like creating this arc of an experience rather than just a bunch of disjointed levels and all the brainstorming and stuff that has to go into that.
One of Ishihara's, as the director of the project, it's really like his concept that carries through that. But yeah, like you said, it's even called journey mode. We're calling it journey mode again because, we thought, oh, does it need to be different? It should be different. It's a different game or whatever. And we thought, well, actually, like the concept, the goal of it is the same, which is, again, not to sound too up our own, but like to have this, like, to kind of tell a story through feelings and music and stuff. And it's very intentionally done now about the order of things and how, you're having like an arc and these sort of things. I think Ishihara-san will talk about, but I do always try to make pains to say, you know what? You could just play this as a puzzle game and have a good time. You don't have to think about these deeper themes, but there is intention there and there is stuff there for people who want to pick up on it, and hopefully people will find that. But I'll let Ishihara-san talk to some of the deeper themes.
So yeah, if you look at each individual stage as its own sort of short burst of an experience, you could certainly enjoy it that way, but it doesn't bring out the sort of depth in what a whole experience can maybe offer. So once we started sort of lining up these stages and started thinking about, okay, what would a beginning of someone's journey be like? What would be the mid sort of phase of that journey look like? And how would the finale be? Once you start thinking about the structure of how you want to create this narrative or this story arc, it just became, for us, it's challenging, but it's at the same time very natural to think about how deep can we take you into our journey. And the most important thing is, like, yes, we try to go for the emotional sort of angle and to bring out something that you may not feel and just clearing a skin or a stage at a time puzzle game experience. So it's quite different than hopefully other puzzle games that you have done before.
Now, correct me if I'm completely making this up, but I believe that part of some of the like initial theming and stuff with Tetris Effect was inspired by just being in Hawaii and, talking to the team there and all of that. So I'm curious if there are any similar kind of like personal connections and inspirations that went behind some of the ideas and concepts in this one.
You're right. There was the Hawaii aspect. There was the with Hank Rogers, the founder of Tetris. They had like a little vision quest there, and a lot of the stages ended up being themed around Hawaii. Kind of fed into the overall mood of a more like inner journey, kind of like Zen meditative kind of thing. But I'll have Ishihara-san can talk about the inspirations this time.
So yes, Mark already answered most of it, but Mizuguchi and Hank Rogers, they got together. They've been talking about this for a very long time, and so there was a lot of sort of inspirations that was rooted in old conversations, and now sort of like, okay, let's make this happen. For Luminous Arise, really the I guess using the same word, the root idea or the conceptual sort of beginnings of everything and what we have now in terms of in-game and stage and inspiration, it's really just between myself and Mizuguchi. We sort of talk about it and have really started from scratch in terms of world building and like creating this brand new universe for Luminous. So I think a lot of people who have played Tetris Effect will agree that the world building setting environments are more in the sort of nature organic, more flowing, more epic, very large scale based sort of environments. In contrast to that, with Luminous Arise, there's a more you'll see in the first stage, there's a person, there's human. A lot of things are more looked under a micro level, not a microscope, but micro level, as opposed to like a macro or more epic scale that you saw in Tetris Effect. So whether it's you see an actual sort of person walking in the scene, or things and objects that are maybe more closer to you, to a person, that's kind of the biggest difference that we have, and you'll see in Luminous Arise.
One of the things that I really appreciate the most about Tetris Effect is that you can't really, you can buy the soundtrack, but you can't really hear the soundtrack in the same way and whatsoever. It's like it is that interactivity. It is that sometimes I will turn a block just because of the sound that it makes, and I'm kind of mixing my own version of that song. So I'm curious, now that you're doing this on a second iteration, if there's anything that you've done to kind of take that side of the experience a step further.
So yeah, the what you're talking about, it actually takes us a long time to make the soundtrack after the game is done, because there's no just track for the level, right? You're actually making it. It's dynamically being created by how you're playing it and stuff like that. So the composer actually has to go back and say, okay, I'm going to make an official version of it. It's exactly like you say. There's no one version of the soundtrack while you're playing it. And that is something we heard. We saw people's reactions and heard that people really enjoyed from the first game a ton. And I'll let Ishihara-san talk about it, but that's something we definitely want to lean into now more with Arise.
So obviously when you talk about, in general, when you talk about music, how music is applied or used in games, of course you can simply apply and just kind of slot in music in any game. But the way that we view music and the role that it plays in games that we make is that it's not just a simple backdrop or a background music component. So what we do is we create the game experience alongside making the music. And what that means is that we're not going to let you just listen to it as if you were listening to the soundtrack, but we want to use it in the most effective and most powerful way possible. And so the way that we think about it at Enhance is we want to enhance the game experience. So we kind of basically break it down, and the parts that we break down, we figure out how effectively the player side can sort of use that or feel like you're manipulating it to make parts of the song come alive, and that you're doing the part to make that music happen. So I think that's a quite different approach than just saying, hey, we're using these tracks, this music, and it's going to be in the game. And so I think that sets us apart from other maybe music games or, puzzle games that use music as a background. But we think that it's, one of the most powerful tools that we have in making our game experiences that much special.
Yeah, I guess one of the things with the journey mode of Tetris Effect was this kind of sense of this focus on like a world music, like going from one place to another. And I wonder if there's a similar exploration there, or if you're kind of exploring like different genres and different styles, even than what was there.
Most definitely, you will hear not just something that is limited to a specific genre. We're offering a very wide range and type of music. So you'll see things from different genres. And I myself love to travel, and I take a lot of inspiration from locations I've been and the sound that I hear at these places that I've visited. So you'll see that reflected in Arise, meaning you'll have different variations and types of music to experience in the game.
With Tetris, it's such a big, sort of ubiquitous thing that most people are familiar with one way or another. With Luminous, I think it's easy to pick up on the basics, but is there anything there to kind of maybe acclimate people to some of those more advanced strategies?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And actually something that we've noticed is like one of the challenges with the game is like, how do you bridge that gap between beginner player and like experienced player? And if your game has depth, guiding and encouraging people through that. So like there's parts that we aren't showing just because they're not ready yet, but that's absolutely something that we've identified. And with some of the things we did in Tetris Effect Connected, we had different modes in it, like the effect modes, some of which were encouraging people to like, hey, think a little bit different about how you think about Tetris, or like, here's a reason to master a T-spin. Like, it's kind of required to get through this, you're going to have to know what a T-spin is. That kind of thinking, we basically want to apply that to Lumines, where it's like, hey, here, you're going to have to really know what a chain block does. Here, you have to really know how to use the timeline correctly. Because Lumines absolutely does have that depth, but it's a matter of like making sure people are encouraged to find it and go through it. That's absolutely like it's a big priority for this game that I think we can do better, definitely than any other Lumines game we've done before, but even better than building on top of what we did on Tetris Effect. Yeah.
Yes, Tetris is, everyone knows Tetris, and we're happy to know that there are a lot of people who enjoy playing Tetris Effect. So going back to your question of, how can we sort of expand maybe even the audience of Luminous players. First of all, I hope that everyone who had a positive playing experience with Tetris Effect will give Luminous Arise a try. And I think it goes without saying that all the games that we put out from Enhance has a music sort of power and appeal in some way, shape, or form. So, at the end of the day, yes, Luminous Arise is a puzzle game, but I really hope that there's a wider appeal and maybe an entry point from a music sort of angle, and that we can sort of widen our reach and reach people who may not have given puzzle games a chance recently, and that there's a way that they can sort of take a second or third chance or look at, challenging themselves to a puzzle game that looks like one, but it feels differently, and that it's not your ordinary puzzle game. So hopefully that entry point of, music has no borders and everyone can relate to some genre of music. So hopefully that is kind of an appeal that we can welcome new players to the Luminous franchise.
Lumines Rise coming to PlayStation 5, optional PSVR 2 support, and PC via Steam with optional VR support there as well this fall. I guess I would say I hope that, if you've been a fan of Lumines, hopefully we've already got you on board, right? It's Lumines. It's got that same DNA. I hope that a lot of Tetris Effect fans will give it a shot and give it a try. We're going to have a demo coming out this summer It's going to have single player. It's going to have multiplayer. And like Ishihara-san was talking about, even if you just like music or you just like puzzle games, if you give it a shot, one or the other there, like we hope that we'll get you hooked. So ideally like a good puzzle game. It's very addictive, very easy to learn, but with a lot of stuff to master and a lot of different ways to encourage you to keep at it and master it and experience all the whole emotional journey. Like to actually buy into what we're talking about. Like if you're skeptical, you're like, come on, this is a puzzle game. What are you talking about? Like, good. That's the attitude I want you to have coming in. And if that's your attitude going out, fine, you still enjoyed it, but hopefully, like if you played Tetris Effect, like you can kind of be like, oh, well, yeah, I kind of see what you're talking about.
I know there are tons of spectacular, awesome games out there for everyone to play. But even if it's a 10-minute break or a little breather in between your other favorite games, we hope that you give Luminous Arise a try. And I think it does provide that sort of relief or that sort of comfort, or like you just want to, get in the zone and kind of like feel high, or whatever that mood is that you're looking for. Hopefully, even a short amount of play with Arise will get you addicted. And by doing that, you will hopefully go on this journey along with us. And, it's all about, as Mark said, at the end of the day, it's a puzzle game, but it's not your ordinary puzzle game. It's much, much more than a puzzle game. So I think the appeal in Luminous Arise will kind of appeal, or it'll come at you the more you play, the more you would want to just not, put down your controller and want to play one more round. And hopefully that'll, communicate to the players that are looking forward to the game.
Thank you so much for joining us, and check out everything else on Easy Allies, youtube.com/Easy Allies, and patreon.com/Easy Allies is how we're supported. So head over there and take a look and consider dropping in a few bucks. Thank you so much.